Welcome to the Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs podcast, a place for podcasters to learn what's actually working in the world of podcasting and how to use their podcast to generate consistent leads in their business. I'm your host, Jenny, and I'm so excited you're here. Hey, Savvies. Welcome back to another episode of Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. I always love chatting with you guys every Thursday. So yeah, thanks for joining me. I know that most of us, although we probably truly enjoy podcasting, because why would we be doing it if we didn't like it at least a little bit? We don't do it for absolutely no reason. Like we're not doing it just for the heck of it. Our reasoning for podcasting may be different. Sure. But whether we're podcasting to position ourselves as an expert in our niche, to make money, or a mix of the two, really, we have our own kind of end game goal that comes to it. And most entrepreneurs' reason for podcasting typically is not to make thousands off of ad sponsorships, but to make an impact while also supporting their businesses monetarily with their podcast, which is kind of what today's episode's all about. So if you are ready to learn how to convert your listeners into leads, then let's get into it. So first up, this is kind of a no-brainer one, but you really want to share your offers with them. Think about it now. How many times do you share your offers on your podcast with your listeners? If your answer is never, then you definitely want to start doing this. And if you do it sometimes, but not all the time, then you definitely want to improve on that. But no one's really going to work with you, and they're not going to know how to work with you or buy your products or whatever that may be if you don't tell them. So make sure to plug your products or services in every single episode. And I know that can seem intimidating for some people because they don't want to come off as spammy. I feel you, girl. I don't like promoting myself too much either, but you have to remember your podcast is a free platform. So it's really important for you to share other free or paid things that you've got going on so that they have the chance to join you for those if they choose. No one's forcing them. No one has a gun to their head and says, you need to do this or you're not going to get any more free content. So I think it's important. You need to share your offers because if they don't hear about them, they're not going to know they exist. So really key, and like the number one thing that people forget to do when they have a podcast because they're either scared or they don't know how to approach it or whatever that may be. So definitely share your offers with them. Don't be afraid. It's just so crucial for actually using your podcast strategically. So number two thing to keep in mind is that free offers tend to convert best. So obviously this episode's about turning your listeners into leads. Then sharing a no-brainer free offer is really the best way to do this, in my opinion. And sure, you may get some people who join you for your paid offers from your podcast, but if you get them on your email list, you can continue to communicate with them on a weekly, bi-weekly basis going forward. And then you have the chance to really nurture them and prime them for your paid offers, which I think in the long run is going to convert the best because if you're not getting them into your funnel, that's the way I look at a podcast. Podcast is like the entry point of a funnel. And then they get on your email list and then they just go further and further and further until they get to one of your paid offerings. That's kind of the point. So I think that is important to keep in mind and really just share your offers, share your free offers, especially. I think it's key, whether you have evergreen offers or you have like things that come up, once or twice a year, like challenges, definitely share them on your podcast. Like it doesn't hurt. So be sure to do that. Hey friends, I just wanted to briefly pause this episode to chat a little bit about the 5 mistakes you're probably making with your podcast guide. If you've been podcasting for a while and just aren't seeing the results that you'd like, then you need to grab this free guide today by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/mistakes today. All right, let's get back into the episode. So number 3, when you're sharing about your free or paid offerings, you need to share specific URLs that you only share on your podcast so that you know how many opt-ins are actually coming from your podcast episodes. This is a huge mistake I see people make. They are sharing their offerings. They're really excited about it. They're getting opt-ins from their podcasts, but then they don't have different links. So they can't tell how many people actually came from their podcast. They're just kind of making assumptions and saying, I think this many probably came from my podcast, but there's no way to be sure if you don't have specific URLs. I also like to use specific forms. So I have a specific URL plus a different form. So I know just immediately upon first glance that they came from my podcast versus just my general website because I have a specific website for my podcast that's different than my regular website. So it's important to do that. You don't have to go as far as making specific forms, but I definitely think you need to have different URLs. So for example, the ad that I just shared is savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/mistakes. I'm pretty sure on my actual website, it's my website.com/mistakes, not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So yeah, so it's nice to be able to know exactly where they came from, if my podcast or Pinterest or whatever that may be. So I think that's really crucial to keep track of. And then lastly, when it comes to sharing about your products and services on your podcast, it's important to just do a lot of trial and error, do a lot of testing because it will take some time to see which offers really are going to convert the best. But I would just give it a true chance to get some opt-ins before completely switching your strategy. Because I know a lot of people, they give it like 1 or 2 episodes and they're like, all right, this isn't working. I'm going to try something else. You need to give it some time. I would say give it at least a month with the same opt-in before switching to another one. And then once you get confident that it is converting, then you can switch it up every other episode or whatever you want to do. What I like to do is, since some of my episodes are about launching, some are about growing your podcast, they're more about like growth and more for current podcasters versus aspiring. I share different freebies based on that. So you can switch it up after you give it at least a month of kind of testing and making sure that it's converting, because you need to at least give it a chance to pick up steam, because people probably aren't going to take the time to type in the URL or go to your show notes or whatever that is after hearing your episode just one time. So they need to hear it mentioned multiple times before they actually take that action. So give it a chance, test, trial and error. That's going to be your best friend when it comes to converting your listeners to leads. So yeah, that is it for today's quick little episode here. But I'd love to hear from you on Instagram about if you're turning your listeners into leads yet. If not, definitely implement some of these tips and let me know how it turns out for you. But I'd love to hear from you either way. Please feel free to DM me at Jenny Suneson. So that's JennySuneson on Instagram. And we can chat more about it. I'd love to hear from you guys. It's always nice to hear, well, I guess, see what you have to say, since Instagram DMs is typing. It's always nice to hear from you because with a podcast, it's a one-way street. So I just love to know who's out there listening and implementing and all that good stuff. So if you want to check out the show notes for the episode, you can go to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com. And I will see you guys in the next episode.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher, and leave a review. You can find us at savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com and on Facebook at Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs and Instagram at Savvy Podcasting. Make sure to join our free Facebook community for podcasters by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/community and join in on the exclusive community just for Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs listeners. I'll see you there.